Welcome back. We're watching People and Politics here on AM Live, and we continue with the conversation apace. Take a look at what is on the front page of the Star this morning. This is all about the reaction on the appointment of Raila Odinga to the AU. Raila's AU job stars feel, or fear, I should say, over his future. NASA leader's absence will tilt local politics and 2022 succession race. Excitement in Ruto's camp over new appointment triggers jitters in ODM base. This story continues on page 4 of the Star this morning. Also, I just want to show you quickly what we do have on the front page of the People Daily as well. This is the splash. What next for Raila? Appointment of opposition leader to African Union post has started the emotive 2022 Uhuru succession debate, with Deputy President William Ruto allies going on overdrive to push Baba out of race. But ODM leaders say the man is going nowhere. See elevation as farmer stepping stone to State House, and that story continues on page 6 of the People Daily. But I just want to also just give you maybe the feel and flavor of what they had to say last week. Just take a listen.
Yeye sasa ni kiongozi wa Afrika mzima. Hii siasa ya hapa Kenya sasa atuachie sisi watu wadogo. Yeye afanye kazi ya continent mzima ya Afrika, akichunga mabarabara zetu na asijenge zote kule Afrika Kusini. Saa ingine anakumbuka Kenya akijenga barabara.
Na ningemwambia ile kazi ambayo amepata hairuhusu uende ufanye siasa. Kwa hivyo hiyo kazi uchunge vizuri. Mambo ya siasa utuachie sisi wanasiasa, wewe uondoke upande ndege uende.
Na sisi tuko kwa Ruto kwa sababu ya kazi ambayo amefanya.
Si mara ya kwanza, si mara ya pili, naibu wa rais amekuwa akikutembelea kule pwani kwa sababu ya maendeleo peke yake. Na kwa sababu hiyo, sisi saa hii tumesema kwamba tumegeuza shingo na hatugeuki kule tulikuwa tena.
Mheshimiwa ndugu yangu Mudavadi, hiyo ni kweli. Ruto is your competitor. But if you want to grow to the next level, mpaka ufanye alliance with a strong competitor, yeye awe rais na wewe uwe makamu ya rais.
Mimi nasikia wengine wakisema katiba ni lazima tubadilishe na itabadilishwa venye tunataka. Sasa nauliza jamani, kwani Kenya imekuwa yako? Utuambie ati katiba ni lazima tubadilishe na tubadilishe venye unataka.
So is Raila swinging on both sides of a pendulum? This is what also Monene has captured for us on today's editorial cartoon in the Daily Nation. Right, look at that. Politics and AU special envoy. Which way to go? Senator Cheriot, let's begin with you. Just comment on that right now. What next for Raila?
Well, I can see on one side his hands are firmly on the political seat. Of course, on the other side, the AU special envoy status is also one that he's proud to now hold. I think it will be an interesting scenario to see how he strikes the balance. Now with a job as demanding as the one he's been given. And I've read properly on what it involves to be a high representative for the AU. And it is everything but a very conflicting position for the former Prime Minister, because this is an office, if you look keenly, many of his contemporaries, the people that he will be sitting with in office, are former retired presidents and people who are no longer in active politics. And I don't know, you know, they say bad company ruins good morals. So I don't know, when you keep the company of retirees, whether you'll still be competitive enough again. But that is a decision that he will make as a party, the political party, for example, that I belong to. We are ready for him, whether he'll be a candidate or not a candidate, either through him or through his proxies. We are ready to face him in the next election. Therefore, it's not a big point of concern which direction he decides to fly.
So do you agree also with the sentiments from especially the younger politicians who say now his work should be solely what AU's mandate is all about, the infrastructure, build roads, divorce yourself and couple yourself from politics?
Not necessarily. I do not think, you know, if you have lived all your life being a politician the way he has been, surely how do you just all of a sudden cease being a politician? I think the point they are trying to make, though, is that concentrate on this job, because a high representative in the AU
So, essentially, how does it get to juggle all these frogs right now? Politics and the AU. We know also NASA is still also a question that needs to be raised. What is the future of NASA? Him being also, you know, core principles within NASA as well.
Okay, if you talk about NASA, I would like to answer that first. I don't think his appointment to the AU affects NASA as such, because I've said this before and I keep on repeating it, that NASA as you knew it at the time of the last election ceased to exist long ago, in the sense that the management committee of NASA has never met since last elections.
Yes.
So you cannot argue that NASA exists. So that one, let's divorce it from the Honorable Raila's appointment. What does this job really entail? What are the terms of engagement? Is it a full-time occupation, or what is it? We have not got the whole gist of it as to what it entails. And then on the other hand, if Jubilee lobbied for this job for Raila so that they can get rid of him, that would be very unfortunate, because so far Jubilee has successfully managed to neuter Parliament. They have also neutered the civil society. So we are staring at a possibility of a one-party state, which is slowly creeping on us, and some people are clapping for it. That would be very unfortunate. Kenyans should be very aware. They should be very awake and should never allow that to happen, because Kenya is now discovering mineral wealth. And we know African countries that have mineral wealth and are dictatorships, then the people's taxes stop mattering because the state is making money from the mineral wealth. And then they start disrespecting human rights. And that is what we need to be very careful about. And I think Raila's appointment to the AU, when you see the kind of noise being made, you can see some sinister motives about it. Not that I'm holding brief for Raila. That is, he has enough soldiers to hold brief for him. I'm just looking at the country globally. And what I would say is that if Kenyans were careful, perhaps we have been politics from this election to the next election. Politics in Kenya is the thing that works. In fact, people now are known to make money from politics, not from business. So it's very sad, because now even doing business has become unprofitable, because the local businessman cannot do his business well. Their goods are held at the port while the Chinese are bringing in their contraband and selling, so businesses are going under. The farmers can't survive. If you are a rice farmer, they have imported rice, you can't farm, you can't sell your rice. If you're a maize farmer, they have brought in maize from Uganda, from Tanzania, you can't sell your maize. If you're a cane farmer, you are just in trouble. So if you're a youth, you are also in trouble. Your money is stolen at NYS, it's stolen at the youth fund. I think Kenyans should realize they are in trouble and actually start divorcing from Jubilee and avoid Jubilee like a plague come 2022. Because anybody Jubilee, anybody related to Jubilee thinks like them, and they ruin this country. So let's not celebrate that Raila has been given a job, so he's going to get out of the scene. In my view, it's for the good of this country to avoid Jubilee like the plague come 2022. All right,
let's say avoid Jubilee like a plague. I don't know what somebody's warming up to Jubilee should tell us. That is Boni Khalwale. And you have also your party, the General Secretary, seem not to be, of course, on your side as well as far as Jubilee is concerned. Are you avoiding Jubilee like a plague?
Let me start from the more important question, and that is what it holds for the former Prime Minister and his supporters and the country about this appointment. It reminds me of Abraham Maslow. Abraham Maslow created the theory in 1943, the theory of human motivation.
Yes.
What motivates a human being? And he created what he called the hierarchy of needs. Every human being starts off with the basic needs of life, then graduates once he achieves them to psychological needs, and finally calls it a day with self-actualization. Basic needs of the former Prime Minister, he has met them. He has a family, he has shelter, he has children, he has food. Those basic needs, he has them. Psychologically, the former Prime Minister has achieved. What he has not achieved is self-actualization. And reading him from 1992, when he joined politics to date, it is clear that his idea of his own self-actualization is to be the head of state of the Republic of Kenya. So if Jubilee thought, that by creating that position, they were going to get him out of the way, then they do not understand Abraham Maslow's theory of self-actualization. Raila will remain interested in actualizing himself, i.e., to become the president of Kenya. So that job, important as it is, and I spoke to it on Sunday, Raila, if he were to put his desire to self-actualize, he has been offered a big opportunity, like Dr. Mukhisa Kitui was offered by the UN, to do a lot of work for Africa and especially Kenya, because he can use that position to influence infrastructure development in this country, especially our road network. I expect that many of such projects that receive funding from the African Development Bank, he will now be in a position to influence it so that it comes the Kenya way. Finally, the smaller question you have raised about somebody leaning towards Jubilee. I think you are referring to my statement at the same rally about the Deputy President. I am the Deputy Party Leader of Fort Kenya. And I cannot be able to be a member of two political parties at the same time. Jubilee and Fort Kenya. Yes.
All right, but also looking at what we have in the Star, if I may just pick it up, there was a sidebar story there that you say Ruto will be winner in 2022, even if he loses. This is what you said, and it says that former Kakamega Senator Boni Khalwale, let me try and see if that can fit. It says Senator Boni Khalwale has formally declared his support for DP William Ruto, but fell short of saying he had quit Ford Kenya. The Ford Kenya Deputy Party Leader yesterday said he realized it will be impossible for another politician to defeat the DP in 2022, as he will be the government's candidate. He said whether other candidates wins, Ruto will be or will still be declared the winner. You want to comment on that?
Yes, I want to comment because, dear Kenyans, at least the ones who are old enough, where were you in 1992 when the election outcome was declared? Moi defeating Matiba, who actually won that election. Where were you in 1997 when Moi defeated Kibaki, who actually won that election? Where were you in 2013 when Uhuru was declared president, who actually won the election? And finally, 2017. So if we have allowed our politics to drift to extent whereby candidates of the government enjoy access to state machinery to the extent that the decision of the voter is not the one that counts, but the decision of IEBC, why pretend? In politics, I was referring to something we call realpolitik. That is realpolitik. Unless you want to practice your politics concerning Kenya in the US.
Thank you. Right, Jacob Medio, you want to weigh in on this?
I don't know how to practice Kenyan politics in the US. But allow me to ask Keseli for a later response where he has been in the last 1 week, because I've heard him to be very reasonable today. He is with a lot of force. So, yeah, you have come back with such vigor. Remember I told you, you know, like Ford Kenya is basically a village party.
Yes.
And it's like as no more as NASA. And most of these political parties are headed the same direction. Because Kenya is headed to a future of where people shall be discussing issues.
Yes.
And I believe, just to answer Bonnie, that the next election, the 2022, will be won based on very different things. The next leadership of this country will depend on other things. And he will be very surprised. But let me say, I have never had AU to be making roads. And I don't think the word infrastructure only means roads, like I've seen the young politicians say there. Raila has been Minister of Roads for Kenya. AU, number one, is moribund. It's that it is even broke. So it can't do any infrastructural development. It depends on us to give it money. I know that because in the last parliament, I was in a committee of foreign relations. So really, AU is about nothing. And Raila has always been working for AU. Remember the Ivory Coast, I believe, where he had to go and negotiate a bungled election. Remember recently, he's even the one who put Salva Kiir and Riek Machar together. So he has been doing AU work, except now they want him to consult officially, which even if he were the president of Kenya, he would be consulting for them still, because he's a statesman. In fact, he's a Pan-Africanist. So all this hula-baloo is wishful thinking by the Jubilee folk that think Raila would be wished away. I hope that particular recognition, because I think it's just recognition, will not take him away from the focus of reforms or reforming the constitution in Kenya, because that's where Kenya needs to go. I believe we can do all that. And he has been doing all that even when he was a Kenyan minister, even when he was the prime minister. In fact, when he did the Ivory Coast thing, he was the prime minister of Kenya. So it cannot stop him from doing it when he is the president. I said here last week that Raila is the barometer of Kenyan politics. You wish him away at your own peril. And I think this country needs Kenya. How quickly Kenyans forget amazes me that Raila walks from his house, goes to OP, has tea with the Uhuru, they come down to cameras, war stops, Kenya begins doing all these things that we are. The country just changes direction. Why would you want to wish him away? Most of these politicians, they talk after being greased. Most of them, and I've not said all, but I've been in some of those rallies where I've seen them. You know, once somebody gets 100,000 shillings, 50,000, they just open their mouths. Wachezaji wa kulipwa. They're professionals, so I have been around them, and I've been in parliament for 15 years, so I know when it doesn't make sense. And I can tell you, again, that AU does not do anything infrastructure. And I can also tell you, AU is broke. I don't even think Africa needs it.
So why is he going there?
Because they need him. They are dying. They need Raila. The same way Jubilee was dying, they needed Raila. And he just walked in and I'm telling you, it's the same scenario.
You hold that view.
He walked into that.
Okay, let's hear from Batende before we come to you. Yeah. Do you think Jubilee needed Raila really? Maybe also we can try and see the editorial cartoon before and also we can have also Tiende weighing on it as well on the touch. This is a referendum. I think this was running yesterday in the Star, where we have really Raila also, heavy asleep there, and you can see he's drooling. Maybe he's at peace right now in Jubilee, and of course you can see also he's donning the Jubilee PJs, yeah. And look on the other side where Ruto is not donning the Jubilee PJs as well. Then there is this great divide about the referendum as well. You know,
I've realized that this seat, by the time the subject gets to you,
that's a cost of coming late.
Before you've spoken, you have now been invited to speak to the next, so you don't know whether to speak to the next or previous. So what I will do is I will speak to the original subject. If you give me more time, then I will speak to that one. There are two things that ought to be said. One is about the appointment of Raila Odinga and his place. And the second is about the question you asked my brother. Let me start with the question involving my brother, Dr. Boni Halwale. You remember last week, we had a friendly tiff with my brother here. And later when we met in Kakamega, he offered me tea. You know, lawyers love tea. And so I was happy to take tea, in Kakamega.
There was a
but
between...
I think and last week, the issue was where my friend was drifting to. I am happy that with the activities of the weekend, that question is now clear beyond peradventure. That Dr. Boni Halwale has finally come out and said that he supports William Ruto for president and he believes no one will beat him. Now, that is clear even on page 9 of the Standard if you see it.
Page 9 of the Standard?
Yes,
okay.
It is there. Yes, yeah, it's on page 9 of the Standard. So I want to speak to that and also speak to something else which is on page 8 of the Standard.
Yes.
My brother's comments on the, on the event we attended together in terms of not being given the opportunity to speak. And so I want to say 3 things. The first interesting thing is in declaring his support for William Ruto, my brother then advises Musalia Mudavadi to pitch for deputy presidency. But Musalia Mudavadi is the ANC leader. He's not even in Fort Kenya. I don't know where he leaves his own party leader. That's number 1. Number 2 is that on page 8, my brother laments the fact that the loyal leaders were not allowed to speak, and we can speak to that later. But I think what's of interest is that he says either Mudavadi or I should have been allowed to speak. Again, he leaves his party leader.
This is page 8 of the Standard.
Page 8 of the Standard.
Okay.
Now, number 3 is a statement is made here that, and I'm happy with the admission that all those, cycles of election, he says we know who won, but we know who was declared. So he has come out this week much more clearly than he did last week, that although Raila kept winning, he kept not being declared the winner. But what worries me about that is that he should say that for that reason, he has chosen to cast his lot with William Ruto because he knows then, by parity of reasoning, that he will not win, but he will be declared a winner. That is the parity of reasoning that I understand. Now, that's very worrying. When we are all fighting for a situation where only the person who legitimately wins should be declared the winner, the day the bullfighter, Boni Mtetezi, declares that he will cast his lot with the person who will be declared a winner despite losing, then is the day we are doomed as Kenyans. We cannot go that way. We will not go that way. I wish he said he would support William Ruto because he believes he will win, not because he believes he will be declared winner. Let me come to the statements that were made by my colleagues. I think that with tremendous respect to my colleagues, they spoke in great ignorance. They spoke in ignorance of the fact that this is not employment. This is an assignment. They spoke in ignorance of the fact that there's nothing in the AU constitutive statutes that bars you from participating in local or international politics by this kind of appointment. They spoke in ignorance of the fact that this is not an office, this is not an appointment for which you have a permanent office and you sit, as they were saying, that now you'll be sitting in South Africa. I think they even forgot that the headquarters of AU are actually in Addis Ababa, not South Africa. Yes. The point here, the point here is this. The appointment of Raila Odinga as the high representative of of infrastructure development in Africa, and if you read the communique, I urge anybody who wants to understand this, just Google the communique from the chair of the African Commission on this appointment and you'll understand. This appointment, first of all, it is a political appointment. And part of the mandate is to mobilize politically with heads of states and other development matters on the issues that the AU wants to focus on, including infrastructure. So you cannot be appointed to a higher political office and someone says now you will not participate in politics. It's like saying if you're a priest and you're appointed a bishop, when then you come back to your local church, you cannot preside over mass. That is just idiotic. Secondly, the AU itself is a political outfit in its entirety. So if anything, such an appointment puts Raila in a higher pedestal politically. In fact, it puts him at a higher pecking order and makes him singularly suited to lead this country because the connections, the negotiations, and the other persons he'll have come into touch with in respect of infrastructural development for the continent would then come to bear for the country. So if anything, it puts him first among anybody else that might be a contender. Thirdly, to determine eligibility of anyone in this country, what determines that is the Constitution of Kenya, nothing else. There's nothing in the Constitution that would bar you from vying because now you have had some other political appointments here and there. So I think they were speaking in ignorance. So if anything, I think that and I agree with Jacomidio on this, what the AU has done is merely formally recognize what Raila has been doing informally. Because he's already been shuffling, you know, and we've seen this a lot, you know, negotiating here and there. But now he's doing it in the context of a formally recognized office. But it does not bar him, it will not stop him. And for those who are worrying, let them worry a lot. You see, in this context, you don't need to try and bar anybody. You remember when the MP for Kisumu, my brother Oda, brought a bill to bar William Ruto from vying in 2022, I was the first to oppose it. Because we do not need anybody thinking that somebody was bad. We need a proper political context. We need a proper contest in which the winner will legitimately be declared the winner and the loser will then accept, but only in the context of a proper and legitimate elections. Now, I can comment on that if
back
you still
on the editorial cartoon briefly.
Yes.
CK, let's just have it
that
back.
editorial cartoon, and I saw it in yesterday's show, I think it's a very confused context. Part of the mistake sometimes we make is we start by presenting these cartoons and assuming the cartoonist is right. So then we try to understand what the cartoonist means. Of course, it is possible, as in this one, that the cartoonist is completely wrong. And so mine is to point out why it's wrong. First of all, why the cartoonist would put Uhuru and Raila in Jubilee pajamas beats me. Raila has never pretended and will never join Jubilee. Working in Jubilee does not mean joining Jubilee. Secondly, as putting an image as if Raila is snooling, like he's sleeping in a very fairly demeaning way, is to demonstrate that the cartoonist does not understand who Raila is at all. If there is one person who, who can recreate and create and move on, it is Raila. So, in fact, in the current situation...
Oh, maybe Raila has a sweet spot right now. Yeah, he's got any sweet spot, and of course, it's very peaceful. That is a rapid eye movement, you know, the third stage of sleep.
I think the only truth in that cartoon, hello? I think the only truth in that cartoon is what appears to be the discomfiture of the Deputy President. You will
gladly choose to
the right to respond.
The right to respond.
The right to respond.
But I'm not the cartoonist, so you can't respond to me.
My brother,
yes.
I welcome your kind remarks about me, but I would like to urge you, when you try to put a wedge between me and my party leader, to do so knowing that we are practicing politics in Kenya, not yesterday, but today. Why are you being jittery as an individual and as ODM collectively? When the party leader of ODM works and shakes hands with the party leader of Jubilee, and you become completely uncomfortable and dismissive when the deputy party leader of Fort Kenya shakes hands with the deputy party leader of Jubilee. What contradiction? Just face Kenyans in the eye and tell them that because you are hoping to field your party leader as a candidate for president in 2022, you are fearing that his biggest opponent could be Ruto. And your greatest fear is that having worked with Boni Khalwale, probably there are certain talents he might be having, which you know, which you fear, if transferred to the camp of your would-be opponent, it would pose a challenge. Face Kenyans and tell them that truth. Don't, for God's sake, my brother, because of our age on this bench, lose your independent mindedness just for purposes of massaging the ego of your party leader. The truth is that you haven't seen nothing yet. Coalitions are now starting to show that they want to emerge. The country might go to the election, not in the configuration of Jubilee versus NASA or Jubilee versus CORD. It might be something else. I would urge you, if you want to remain relevant in your political journey, not to be a bystander, but you also, yeah, that is your phobia, which I don't share.
I'm taking your advice.
Relax. Okay, relax. All right. But also, lastly, yes. But also, my brother, like I'm doing, and you don't have to learn from me, to actively ensure that you participate in shaping the destiny of the country and not just following the whims of a strong individual from your community.
All right, thank you. Maybe we can just read a quick tweet before we... the commentator is asking... He's saying Otende Amolo makes it looks like Boni Mtetezi alleged support for William Ruto is a crime. When he himself supports Raila and no one has ever questioned him over it.
I need to clarify that. And it has been asked to me. Let me clarify.
No, you've gotten it. You just take a mental note of it because of so that we don't lose the track of thought. Is it a Sally? It's a Sally. It's yes.
I'm worried about my deputy party leader because he has implied that the deputy president will be elected.
Will be a winner.
Wapende wasipende.
Yes.
That means he's actually lying back and accepting electoral injustice, which is very unfortunate because he himself has enumerated the times he perceives that Raila won, but he was not the one announced as the winner. And now he seems to say we accept that situation and move on. I know that's now accepting a one-party situation, which I did not expect.
So by hook or crook?
So yeah, because he's accepting electoral injustice, which is not correct. While I agree with him that if like I agree also with Otende Amolo that working with Jubilee is not joining Jubilee. But I know the history from 2013, where very many people in ODM suffered in the 2017 election because they were perceived to have been working with Jubilee. So now, but it's now right. Once Raila works with Jubilee, it's now right. But when these other foot soldiers worked with Jubilee, it was wrong. I think even Jacoyo Midio here is one of the victims, one of the casualties. So I think the problem we are facing now, we better put it on the table, is not a question of working with Jubilee or not. It's a question of individuals in Jubilee. If you are working with Uhuru, you are okay with Raila. If you are working with Ruto, you are not okay with Raila. Not that Raila is the prefect of the whole country to decide who works with who, but that is the situation as it is now. So that if you work with William Ruto, then the Raila camp sees you as bad. But if you work with Uhuru Kenyatta, then the Raila camp sees you as okay. You know, I think that now raises the issue. And that's why all the media has been raising this question on and off. Is Jubilee really intact? Right. And then the Jubilee members themselves have been quarreling and saying from the advent of the handshake, they have been very uncomfortable in their house. So all this to me is the beginning, and I keep on repeating this, and Kenyans should be very careful.
Yes.
It's a possible beginning of a one-party state. Remember, Jubilee is in bed with the Reds of China, and even their uniform is red. Jubilee is in bed with China, the Chinese Communist Party, and even their uniform is red. Okay. Kenyans, be very careful.
My head is getting light.
For me, I'll state this. I don't know who I'll vote for, but I know who I'll not vote for. Anybody, Jubilee, not me.
All right. Yeah, you know, I find it very hard also maybe to constitute this panel because I wonder now where Boni sits. Is it on the Jubilee side? Is it now on this other NASA side? Right? When you come into constitute, do you told NASA is dead. Yeah. And I think
Essentially has told you NASA is dead.
Okay. Can I just?
I thought we already agreed. NASA is dead. I'm here purely as a Fort Kenya representative.
Okay. Aaron Cheriot.
You know, first of all, there's something that I just want to quickly respond to. This notion.
But though you've noticed, Aaron Cheriot today is not talking a lot because actually you're doing the heavy task of Jubilee. You should go to Aaron Cheriot for appraisal. He's not going to a cup of tea.
Terrible.
I have always raised questions of the impartiality of the man. I think it is now confirmed. The whole country now knows. You know, there's something I wanted to say. 3 quick things. Number one is the issue of electoral injustice that Dr. Eseli here has referred to. And Boni is here, and I think during his next round of batting, he'll be able to clarify. But I thought what he was speaking to was realpolitik. That is, it is not what is commonly believed. For example, and he used the example of 207, and I can pick on that because that's an election I participated in. My first time of voting was in 2007. That the general perception and thinking at that time was that a particular candidate will win. But the truth of the matter is that when things went down, we all know what happened. Same mistake happened in 2013 as happened again in 2017. So I do not think that what Boni Halwale meant was that by hook or crook, the Jubilee candidate will be declared the winner. He was just trying to tell Eseli, open your mind up to the possibilities that it is not the person you think will eventually be the winner that is declared. So it's just a practical example of life. Now, back to this very interesting discussion. There's something that I want to tell you, Dr. Boni Halwale, my good friend, that do not struggle so much in understanding our friend Dr. Otiende Amolo. You know, when he came to this panel, I remember during his first days with us here, there was all this independence of thought and whatever was happening at that time in the country. And one of the things I remember putting a mental note down my head is how long he can keep on this tag of an independent thinker. You know, Boni, the thing you need to understand is that where Jakoyo and Otiende come from, the default political setting is something called suspended reasoning. You suspend your reasoning and only take direction. You only take direction from the party leader. Whatever he says can never be questioned. So I want to congratulate my good friend Dr. Otiende Amolo for setting his political career on the right path. Otherwise, he would have been a victim like Jakoyo Bidiwo. He tried that route that he wanted to take at the beginning of his show, but look where he is right now. So for you to, at all times, to try and justify some things that even...
The where there's that freedom is Western.
I do not know.
Even in Rift Valley, there's no such freedom.
I mean, there's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of freedom. You need to see the occurrence of the day in Parliament doing the 8% VAT, which members of Parliament really voted against what the party leaders perceived. And therefore, just back to my initial point of what I was trying to say. For example, for Otiende to tell us that those members of parliament, you have got to understand context. I've seen you address political rallies back at home, and some of the things you say, when put to the context of a debate like this, they look completely meaningless. But back to the people who you're speaking to, that was what made sense. I don't think those members of parliament were saying that Raila has been given a formal job. They were just dramatizing the situation to make them understand that now he'll be a busy man.
Thank you.
So don't speak on both sides of the mouth and say that he'll be as free as can be, and therefore now it puts him on a pedestal. Right. It's not fair.
Jakoyo, you have your opportunity now to either suspend your reasoning or dispense.
I'm going to dispense my reasoning. First of all, this is what I believe, Diban.
Yes.
That this so-called suspended reasoning is a good thing, because we must adhere to the rule of law, and we must be led by somebody. It is true in Nyanza we are led by Honorable Raila Odinga. It is good discipline if you want to be a leader. Look at what is happening in Western Kenya, where Boni Halwale can go to Nakuru and advise a whole Musalia Mudavadi to be running mate to somebody with questionable past. We have
but isn't that the spirit of devolution? You can crisscross anywhere in this country.
Listen,
yeah.
Devolution does not allow indiscipline. What Boni Halwale is doing is indiscipline. You see where he's saying, where Cheriot is saying Otiende Amolo was. Think about where Boni Halwale was. Boni Halwale was even the chairman of PAC. He used to look at thieves in this country. Look at the direction he's running to. Look at the direction he's running. What I used to think that Ruto has the energy, has the age advantage, and Ruto could be the next president of Kenya. I don't anymore. And where did I stop? When he used to say, we shall rule you until 2032, alafu tutaona. You know, somebody only becomes the president of this country if they go out and look for votes. Not to rule us, but to lead us. Rulers are long gone. In fact, even Moi wasn't a ruler. So when you say we shall rule you, I said, is it Idi Amin or who is this guy? But look at it this way. How do you become the president after being the deputy for 10 years? You become the president if your tenure as a deputy, or even when you're minister of agriculture, when you were minister of, when you were a deputy, and I've said that, you left something good to sell to Kenyans. Look what has happened under the Jubilee government. The SGR, when he was Minister of Agriculture, the maize scandal. When you are now, everything Kibaki left intact. The amount of looting that has gone on in this country under Jubilee. Look at the economy. And that's why I get so surprised when I see a young MP from Kilifi saying how the president has made forays there in development. I came from Malindi last night. It can pass for one of the dirtiest cities without any running economy. So which development has he taken there? I came from Malindi, and I want to be contradicted. And I see him on TV going there. What they are doing, they are trying to corrupt the minds of Kenyans so that we don't talk about issues. When William Samoei Ruto, even though he has the right to be a candidate, we shall question. That is how it works. Yes, you can question Raila, but Raila, Aliwale, who is your spokesman today, has said he has been winning, but somebody else get declared the winner. So that is what he said. That is what he said. He said, no, that is what he just said.
But is he can clarify? Yeah, why don't you just give him an opportunity to clarify? You will. All right. Okay.
The talk of by Boni about William shall win even if he loses. You know, that is what explains why they are opposed to the referendum. Because the referendum includes a scenario where we make a law that does not allow us to kill each other every 5 years. That is what we must change in this country. And after that, it does not matter who becomes the president.
Thank you.
But if the law allows him he says he wants to rule us,
right.
that is a scary scenario.
All right. So, Tenable, I hope you've not lost your track of thought. Yes, please.
Despite the efforts of my friends, when Dr. Halwale uses all his time and Senator Cheruiyot his entire time to respond to me, both of them, then it means whatever I said pricked their conscience. And that is a good thing. Let me start. Let me start by talking about Dr. Halwale's response.
I must have.
You know. Yes. Let me clarify this. And to respond to the tweet.
Please.
And to respond to the tweet.
Respond to the tweet as well.
My problem with Dr. Halwale earlier until last week was that he was supporting DP Ruto, but he did not have the courage to say it. And I said that in last week's show.
He was pussyfooting.
I am no longer having a problem with him on that, because over the weekend he came out clearly. and he has repeated it here, it is in the papers. He says he supports DP Ruto, and he urges Musalia Mudavadi to go for deputy. So I'm clear with that. My new problem with him is the reason he says he's supporting him. The reason he says, which he has repeated here, and which is even in the papers, is that because he believes that any candidate who is supported by the government will always be declared winner. That is what is in the papers, page 9, and he has repeated it here. And I agree with Dr. Eseli. That is the wrong reason to support anyone. If you want to support anyone, support them because they want or you believe they'll win. So to respond to Dr. Lwale and the Twitter and Kenyans generally, I have absolutely no problem with anybody supporting William Ruto for president. I have no problem with anybody supporting anybody else. Just be clear that you are supporting them and support them for the right reasons. That's number one. Number two is my friend Senator Cheriot. Senator Cheriot is a good man, but who suffers a deficit in memory sometimes. Other is called amnesia.
Selective one.
This is not the selective one, this is the general one.
Selective is better.
His deficit in memory causes him not to listen to what Dr. Halwale said on this panel, causes him to try and change it that I think what he meant. Who are you to tell us what Halwale meant and he told us on that pen in this panel? Wait, that is deficit in memory. Secondly, he says that to demonstrate that he and the others in Jubilee are independent is because they voted on against the 8% VAT. Now, he forgets one, he didn't vote. That vote did not go to Senate. So that does not demonstrate his independence. Two, he forgets that I voted against it, despite the fact that my party took a position to support it. So if there was a demonstration of independence, then what other demonstration is there? We do not need to debate levels of independence and all. What we need to do is that any Kenyan is free to support anybody of their choice for president or otherwise. Secondly, support them, hopefully for the right reason, not the wrong reason, because you think they can steal elections better. Thirdly, have the courage to come out and allow anybody who wants to contest without barring, whether it's Raila, whether it's Ruto, whether it's anybody, let them contest, but let the electoral contents be fair and decent.
Right.
But lastly,
we need
and
to be
this is the very last
right
one, and this is easily my parting shot. I know I won't get another one.
Yes, parting shot.
I have seen a lot of my colleagues, including over the weekend, supporting DP William Ruto, saying, oh, because he's bringing development to my area, or bringing this. It is an admission of failure individually as a member of parliament and collectively as parliament for us to run either to the president or the deputy president, that only by running to them do we get development, because we hold the past, we build the budget.
Thank you very much. Let's get closing remarks. We begin with you, Dr. Eseli.
What I would say is that for me, what puts me off most is the arrogant, put you down kind of talk, especially from both Jubilee and ODM. That doesn't augur very well for us. But I must admit, handshake, while it brought peace in the country, has sort of obscured real issues, such that Kenyans are not actually talking about the real issues that are affecting them. Because you find like now, the president has released some money to pay sugarcane farmers. But we know that the companies harvested that cane, made sugar from that cane, sold that cane, got money. Nobody's telling us where that money went to. So we're not really following the real issues. What we get to hear is, wale wengine wanapiga tu kelele, sisi tunajenga barabara, tunaunganisha stima, tunajenga reli. Then you, like when I sit in my constituency, I wonder which barabara have they made for me here? Even the nearest one is being made by the county government, not by them. When I hear things like tunaunganisha stima, then people are impoverished. When people are impoverished, they are staying in that grass-thatched house, not because they chose to build a makuti house, but because they are so poor they could not build a better house. Alafu naunganisha stima pale, wanalala njaa umewapatia stima, hiyo inasaidia nini? So, you know, this arrogant kind of talk is very serious. And I've been saying this. Thank you. Can I just finish, because this is the last bit.
10 seconds.
I've told people that Raila exposed the rot like theft of SGR, theft of Eurobond, theft at NYS. And I think people looked at him and said, this is the one who keeps on revealing us. So they stole Raila himself and went with him. So the rest of Kenyans need to be very, very awake.
All right, very, very awake. Let's hear from Aaron Cheriot.
You know, maybe
parting shot.
I want to tell Eseli, maybe it's because in African culture, it is bad manners to speak when you're eating. That's why Raila is silent. Anyway, my parting shot, there's just something that Jakoyo said that I want to really appeal to my brother and my good friend Jakoyo. That he says that one of the reasons we need to have a referendum is so that we don't kill each other 5 years. And I'll give him the example of Rift Valley, where I come from. You know, it's a cosmopolitan area where almost all the 44 tribes of Kenya live in. And there used to be political upheavals during election time. And with the formation of the political party that I belong to, we agreed to bury the hatchet and change our hearts about each other so that we don't make it criminal for anyone to support their political cause.
Thank you.
To do that, we never changed any referendum.
Thank you.
Therefore, what Jakoyo needs to do is to have a change of heart, particularly on the one for accepting when you lose elections.
Thank you.
When you do that, we shall not be killing each other.
Right.
And to achieve that, you do not need a referendum.
Right. Boni Khalwale, briefly.
Yes, before I make my last comment.
No, we need your last comment.
Okay.
Yes, because we're winding up.
Jakoyo, it's a sign of desperation for you to say that because Malindi is dirty, the deputy president is not working. That function is in the hands of the governor. My last parting shot. Kenyans should not take Jakoyo's and Amolo's views on this panel on the matter this morning seriously, because they are trying to manage their difficult regional community politics. They are good students. They know that Dr. Shemo Chuodo tried to be independent-minded. He ran into very serious problems. Orengo tried to be independent-minded. He ran into very serious problems.
Thank you.
So if you are uncomfortable that I raised a question about us failing to speak in Kakamega, please know that if the reason why we were not allowed to speak,
thank you,
it is because we are not leaders of the region.
Thank you.
Then if we are not leaders of the region, then Raila Odinga is definitely not the leader of the region.
Jakoyo, we're parting shots. 30 seconds.
I also spoke about the economy of Malindi. And the MPs shouting last, that are Aisha Jumwa and this one, are the local MPs. You know, we have the oversight role. And let me just tell you, but who they are following, they have been bought. Let me just say this to Aaron Cheriot.
No, we are winding up.
No, I was winding up. You know, he accused me, Dibal.
We are stuck
If you are talking about you don't need referendum, I say, God bless you and God bless the Kikuyus who live in Eldoret. Remember the Mandago statements, which are not even 1 year old. We must change the electoral laws.
Thank you very much.
In fact, in this last election, it is my people, your policemen who are shooting.
Dr. Otiende, we are winding up briefly. 30 seconds.
For me, I think that what is developing is very healthy. What we need to maintain is the tempo of discussing without being violent. And in terms of violence, we know Cheriot where the violence resides since '92, and we will not go there.